Well, for more on the Raj Rajaratnam trial, has been fascinating so far to watch. Well, we were joined by the partner of Peckar and Abramson and white-collar defense specialist Thomas Curran. Tom, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I know you've been following this trial from the beginning.
Sure.
This testimony from Adam Smith, how damaging was it?
Well, it's very damaging. You're hearing about the inner workings of Galleon and how Raj, the defendant, deals with his people. There are two faces of Galleon. Mr. Smith portrayed the outward one that's concerned with compliance, and then the inner one, which would eliminate communicating by emails and texts that created an electronic message so they would talk to each other and fax each other information so that it wouldn't rise up on the compliance structure that they purported to have established.
So obviously, I mean, in your view, and I think in the general view, it was very damaging, and as you point out, but was it crippling to the defense?
No, it's another piece, and because certainly Mr. Smith has his issues, and Mr. Dowd, the lead defense lawyer, I think is going to have certainly a lot of material to explore on cross-examination. And because not only was Mr. Smith engaging in what he admits was insider trading, but he also continued to do that after he left Galleon, and indeed after the defendant Raj Rajaratnam had been arrested.
Had been arrested, right?
So he has his issues. The prosecution has already prepared the jury for this. They're not asking the jury to like Mr. Smith, but they're going to point to how Mr. Smith's testimony can be believed based upon certain objective criteria.
I mean, how credible it is.
Exactly. And how he can be believed by objective facts, like in 2005, how they upped their outward appearance of compliance, when really, you know, they were defeating it through facts and an increase in telephone communications.
Right. So then if you were on the defense side and you were cross-examining Adam Smith today, then tell me your approach, or what should the approach be then?
Well, I think certainly there's a lot of stuff to attack his credibility and how he knowingly, I mean, this is a Harvard-educated, doubly a Harvard undergrad, Harvard Business School, not a good day for Harvard today, and how he knowingly did this and how he did it on his own initiative, and all these things will be explored, and there's plenty of information on that. But also the theme that I think the defense has been hitting upon, insider trading is as a criminal offense is a very difficult thing to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, because what does it mean that the material is non-public? Because if you look at certain events, there's always leakage to the markets, or often, and you can show that a price in a stock is starting to rise in advance of a significant announcement. Well, what is that? How does that rise take place if there's not access publicly, maybe not generally publicly, but certainly the information tends to leak out there.
You're talking about like when Goldman Sachs stock was rising before Warren Buffett's purchase in the
It's a wonderful example, because in September 2008 there was no, bank stocks are nosediving. Goldman Sachs is losing money, which is a unique circumstance, and their stock is nosediving. And in advance of the announcement of the Buffett investment, you see Goldman Sachs' stock start to rise. Well, what is attributable to that other than leakage to the market
of non-public information?
Well, yeah, and then it becomes, well, how non-public really was it? I mean, if some people have it, maybe it's not generally available to the public, but is it still non-public such a criminal offense is warranted?
So is that why then the line is quite muddy when Adam Smith was talking about getting information from the Morgan Stanley banker, or getting information, I think it was from a former Intel employee? I mean, these are actual revenue numbers, actual data, but you're saying that doesn't mean that it was completely non-public information.
Yeah, it's certainly confidential information. It's certainly information that should not be out there, but it's also, if you look at the trading statistics and the trading activity, there's leakage to the market reflected in advance of announcements, such that this is something that will be the whole theory of, because markets have a way of getting information, and then the issue is whether this is really non-public strictly or not. But then you go back to the intent, and this is good for the prosecution. Mr. Smith has pled guilty to knowingly having done this.
Right, to having traded on that. Then.
Precisely.
Tom, thank you. Really appreciate you joining us on this.
Thanks so much for having me.
Tom Curran of Peckar and Abramson.